The Cleveland Browns are the franchise team this year for Madden 26. This looks like yet another season of doom and gloom for Browns fans, projected to finish towards the bottom of the standings again. There's not a whole lot to be excited about with this team, but hopefully we're going to change that. Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the Cleveland Browns franchise here on Madden 26. I'm super excited to get started. I hope you guys are as well. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new for more Madden 26 content. This series will be linked up to our Virginia Tech Dynasty on EA College Football 26. The players from that Dynasty series will be entering the draft classes of this series. So we'll get to follow the NFL careers of guys like Notre Dame quarterback Brennan Holloway, Alabama quarterback Kieran Riddle, and of course Virginia Tech quarterback Clyde Poole. We're currently halfway through the first season of the Virginia Tech Dynasty, so if you're new to the channel, you're coming at a good time, given that both series are starting at roughly the same time. Of course, the team we've chosen for this series is the Browns, and there's a lot of reasons why I ultimately picked Cleveland. I mean, for one thing, they're the worst team in the game. They had the worst record in the NFL last year, but I think they're a really interesting rebuild for a 3-14 team. Obviously, a heavily publicized quarterback battle with 5 players in the mix to be the starter. The Browns also have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, including Jacksonville's pick, which they got in the Travis Hunter trade. So our first order of business running the Browns is deciding who's going to be the head coach. Kevin Stefanski is very solid, 2-time coach of the year, but it is tradition that we create a new coach, and with this organization's history of losing and more losing, I want someone who can set in a winning culture, a leader of men, a guy who's won everywhere he's been. And I think I know just the guy. Puma Whitlock's biggest challenge yet is becoming the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. A 2-time national champion is the starting quarterback at the Ohio State University, winning the college football playoff MVP as a junior and senior. 2-time Super Bowl champion with the expansion St. Louis Dragons, and most recently, winning a national championship as a head coach at the University of Kansas, beating his former rival, the University of Michigan. Puma returns to the state of Ohio, where he captured the minds and hearts of many when he was the quarterback at Ohio State, now becoming the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Probably his biggest challenge yet. But as I said earlier, this guy has won everywhere he's been. Puma has won everywhere he's been, whether it's in college or in the NFL, as a player or as a coach. There is no guy I would trust more running the Cleveland Browns than him. But he's got his work cut out because this roster is not great. He's going to have a big decision to make with a quarterback battle where everyone in the room, except for you, can become the Week 1 starting quarterback here in Cleveland. When you have 5 quarterbacks, that really means you have none. Nobody in the QB room is all that great, and we don't have very many good players on the roster. But we do have Myles Garrett, 99 overall, superstar X Factor, the best defensive player in the National Football League. This guy is a game wrecker off the edge. The former Defensive Player of the Year gives offensive coordinators nightmares weeks before playing against him. Myles Garrett could retire today, and he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's how good he is, despite suffering for the last 8 years on the Cleveland Browns. Well, he's now 29 years old. He's not getting any younger, and while he has not shown any signs of declining, he's almost 30, and he's only played in 3 NFL playoff games. Of course, we'll be able to give him some traits, one of the new additions to the game this year. That, along with his Superstar X-Factor zone ability and his other superstar abilities. Through his first 8 seasons in the NFL, Myles Garrett already has over 100 sacks. One of the most accomplished defensive players for his age ever. 6-time Pro Bowler and, of course, former Defensive Player of the Year. A player this good, though, is understandably sick and tired of losing. Hence why Myles Garrett requested a trade in the offseason. The Browns, though, gave him 160 million reasons to stick around. Myles is under contract for 6 more years until he's 35 years old. He'll be making a lot of money, and it will be here in Cleveland. He will not be going anywhere anytime soon. This is our main building block on the defensive side of the ball. who we're going to hopefully give a championship to as a member of the Cleveland Browns. That brings us to the offense in the quarterback room. We've got 6 guys on the roster, but only one of them can start this season. The others are all going to have to take no for an answer, something that Deshaun Watson usually does not do. The nightmare is almost over with Watson. He has 2 more years left on his deal. He will not be playing another down of football in Cleveland, but we can't cut him because it gives us a $70 million cap penalty. So unfortunately, we have to keep him until his deal is up. He obviously is hurt. He will not play. If he was healthy, I would not let him play anyway. As for the guys actually in the mix, we'll start with the favorite to be QB1, and that's 40-year-old Joe Flacco in his 18th NFL season out of Delaware. Are you wacko for Flacco? Joe Flacco resurrected this team in 2023, replacing Deshaun Watson and leading the Browns to an extremely unlikely playoff berth. After a year in Indianapolis, he returns to Cleveland, where he is the favorite to be the starter. He's only a 71 overall, and obviously at 40 years old, we know he's not the long-term answer. So because of that, maybe we like to pivot to someone younger, possibly one of the 2 rookies, Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. Sanders is a 67 with normal, while Gabriel is only a 66 with normal development. So it's not going to be easy in terms of developing these guys. Both of these guys will play at some point, and we'll start with Shedeur Sanders, who obviously had the big draft fall. He fell to the 5th round. The Browns take him, and look, that's in the past. He's an NFL player now. He's on our team. And if he's the best quarterback in the room, he is going to be the starter. And I'm really excited to see him play in the preseason with the accuracy, with the processing. I think he's got a chance to be a good player in this league. And then Dylan Gabriel, a top 100 pick, coming off a great season at the University of Oregon. He's scrappy. He's a gamer. He's played a lot of college football. Actually, more than anyone. He's played more college football games than any quarterback ever. Gabriel is undersized and has limited physical tools, but after a great year at Oregon, I'm curious to see what he can do at the next level. We've also got veterans, including Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett and Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley. In an ideal world, neither of those guys see the field, but if everybody else in the quarterback room is that bad, then maybe one of them are going to have to play. The running back room should be really fun. We've got some intriguing rookies in this group. Jerome Ford headlines the list as a 77 overall in his 4th season out of Cincinnati. Big, physical, bruising runner, averaged over 5 yards a carry last season and was a lot more effective than Nick Chubb was. And unfortunately, that's the reason why Chubb is no longer on the team. Ford is on the last year of his deal, though, and given that the Browns used 2 draft picks, including one in the top 40 at the position, that kind of tells you if they want to pay Ford a long-term deal or not. The future of the backfield likely involves these 2 rookies, and we'll start with Quinshon Judkins. Hidden development, 2nd rounder out of Ohio State, only 21 years old, 6 foot, 221 pounds, big physical runner. He was the thunder to Travion Henderson's lightning last season, and I think he's certainly the most talented player in the running back room. Only a 74, which feels low for a 2nd round running back, but with my updated rosters, his rating probably will go up a little bit. Now, it is a slippery slope with Judkins, given the off-field stuff that's currently going on. For the sake of this series, at least for now, he will play. He will play in Week 1, I think, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Hopefully everything ends all right with him, and we can live all happily ever after. Along with Judkins, there's also Dylan Sampson, the 4th rounder out of the University of Tennessee, who's only 20 years old, the youngest player, I believe, in the entire league. 5'8", 199 pounds. Sampson is more of your, not so much between the tackles runner, but the home run threat. Big play machine. He was the bell cow last year at Tennessee, where he was absolutely phenomenal. And there's a reason why the Browns drafted both of these guys. They think the skill sets can be complementary of each other. Judkins is probably going to get more work between the two, but Dylan Sampson can turn any play into a big one. And given how young he is, he certainly could develop into a really good player, especially having hidden development. So I think we're going to see all of these guys play a lot between Ford, Judkins, and Sampson. All 3 of them will play a pretty big role for us. And then there's also Pierre Strong in his 4th year out of South Dakota State. I remember liking him quite a bit as a Jackrabbit. It's unfortunate that it never really worked out for him. Let's move to the wide receiver position, where it is bleak. probably the worst receiver room in the NFL. Although, Jerry Jeudy, coming off a great season last year, looks to keep it going as the wide receiver one moving forward. Jeudy was a disappointment early in his NFL career with the Broncos, but he completely turned it around last year, finishing at the very top of the league in receiving with 90 catches for over 1,200 yards. And he did that with not very good quarterback play and no other receivers really for the opposing defense to game plan around. At just 26 years old, with 3 years left on his deal, 3 very cheap years, we've got a really good starter here in Jerry Jeudy to build this offense around. The problem is the rest of the receiving room is not good. I have a really hard time getting excited about Deontay Johnson. He's a guy who I've always felt like is kind of overrated. Now he's not really rated at all because he's barely scratching and clawing his way onto an NFL roster. But if he makes the team, he'll play quite a bit. I am intrigued by these young guys, though. Cedric Tillman and Jamari Thrash, 2 recent draft picks of the Browns, differing skill sets, who I think can each help this team. Tillman showed some flashes at the end of last year, 6'3", big body, physical target. And then Jamari Thrash, really solid after the catch, 6 foot, 190 pounds. There's also David Bell, former third rounder, who's only 24, and Gage Larvadane, who's only 22. Maybe he makes the team and ends up being a surprise impact for us. So the quarterback room is bad, the running back room is bad, the wide receiver room is bad. The tight end room is really good, though, and we'll start with David Njoku, 89 overall, superstar development. I don't know if he's going to keep the superstar development in my new roster, but long story short, this guy's a really good player. Once upon a time, a former raw athletic prospect entering the NFL, Njoku has hit his ceiling. He's become a fringe top 5 player at the position in the league, and despite shaky quarterback play, he's become a really good player for this Browns team. I will point out he played his very best football at the end of 2023 with Joe Flacco slinging the rock, and now Flacco's back as the favorite to be the starting quarterback this year. David Njoku only has 1 more year on his deal, though, where he's making $12 million, and we're going to have to make a decision on whether or not to extend him. This asking price feels reasonable. 3 years, $40 million for a player as good as him. He is nearing 30 years old, though, and a guy who relies on his athleticism could regress kind of quickly, so it's going to be a tough decision for us. One of the players I'm most excited to use in this series is Harold Fannin Jr., the rookie out of Bowling Green State, who the Browns drafted in the 3rd round, only 21 years old. Really surprised they did not give him hidden development. They handed out hidden devs like candy canes on Christmas, but they didn't give one to Harold Fannin, so there's a chance in my updated roster that he ends up with start development because there are a lot of worse players across the league who were given dev traits. Harold Fannin's a really intriguing player. 6'3", 240. Will he line in the slot? Will he play in line at tight end? He's got a lot of versatility, terrific receiving production last year at Bowling Green. One of the very top players at the top of just about every major receiving stat a year ago. And given his age and his potential, I think there's a chance we could be looking at a really, really good player with Harold Fannin. A guy who we've used in the past as well. We drafted him in the Broncos franchise last year, where he became a really good player. I'm excited about getting the chance to run it back with him. Njoku and Fannin are going to be 2 of the most exciting players on the offense as we move over to the line. It's not bad, but it's a ticking time bomb. We've got old players, we've got injury-prone players. I don't really trust any of these guys moving forward. Cornelius Lucas is 34. DeJuan Jones has been very up and down. Of course, the big fella, 375 pounds. Joel Bitonio is awesome. He's entering his 12th year with the Browns, but he's on the last year of his contract, and he's 33 years old. Can we really trust him to stick around? There's also Zach Zinter, top 100 pick in 2024, coming off a major injury at the University of Michigan. Ethan Pocic, very solid bridge player, but nothing more. And then at right guard, Wyatt Teller. He's been a good player for this team for a while. Him and Joel Bitonio, 2 of the better guards in the NFL in recent years. But Bitonio's 33, Teller's 30, and he's only a 79 overall. So is he going to be good for much longer? Probably not. The Browns signed Tevin Jenkins to a 1-year prove-it deal, hoping he can stay healthy. And they hope Jack Conklin can stay healthy as well. 2 guys who have had some issues staying on the field. Conklin at 31, I don't know how much better he's going to get. But Tevin Jenkins, a really, really intriguing draft prospect from Oklahoma State, showed some good things with the Bears. He just couldn't really stay on the field. This offense, though, is rough. The tight end room is good. I like the rookie running backs. Maybe another guy ends up hitting, but it is bleak. The defense is a little better. Not that we've set the bar very high, but it is better. Myles Garrett obviously leads the way on the defensive line, and he's got a new Robin to his Batman with Mason Graham, the 5th overall pick out of the University of Michigan. In my opinion, one of the most surprising draft moves in recent memory, Cleveland trading off of Travis Hunter to go up and ultimately take Mason Graham instead with the 5th pick. Graham was a dominant force at Michigan. Elite run defender, really solid pass rusher, already an 80 overall, one of the most pro-ready defensive line prospects you'll find. 3 elite seasons of production for Graham at Michigan. Now he goes to enemy lines in the state of Ohio, where he was not very liked about 3 months ago. Now a little bit more so, given that Browns fans are probably going to be forced to root for him. But I think by the end of his rookie season, you guys are going to come around on Mason Graham. I have a feeling that he's going to be a great player for us. Along with Graham in the defensive tackle rotation, we've got some good veterans. Shelby Harris and Malik Collins, 2 guys who have stuck around in the league for quite some time and have both been good players. The defensive tackle position is a major strength of this team, probably the best position room on the roster. There's also Mike Hall Jr., 22 years old, star development. I liked him a lot coming out of Ohio State. I think there's a lot of upside with him. This is one of the best interior defensive line groups in the NFL, and you factor in that Myles Garrett is here as well. The rest of the edge room is not great. We're hoping for maybe a late breakout for Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, the former first-round draft pick. Why is he sitting on him? I digress. Cam Thomas, intriguing rotational guy. KJ Henry won a Super Bowl with the Eagles last year. Isaiah McGuire, Julian Okwara, Alex Wright, former third-rounder. I could see all those guys getting a little bit of run this year. The edge room, though, is not very good outside of Myles Garrett as we move over to the linebacker position, which is not bad at all. There are some good players here, specifically Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a guy who's developed into a really good player here for the Browns. Now, unfortunately, he will not play here in Season 1 with an injury, so we're going to be without one of the most important players on this defense, a rangy, instinctive coverage linebacker, only 25 years old, become one of the best players at the position in the league. I like that they've added the Guardian caps in the game, although it looks like he has a muffin on his head. JOK recently agreed to an extension with the Browns, so despite his injury history, we've got him for the long haul, which I'm pretty excited about. He's a guy who I was really fond of coming out of Notre Dame, and it sucks that he hasn't been able to stay healthy because he's lived up to his draft hype. So with him not on the field this year, we're going to have to see a lot of the rookie Carson Schlesinger, drafted early in the second round out of UCLA. Schlesinger, only 22 years old, hit in development, extremely well-rounded linebacker. He checks off all the boxes in terms of size, athleticism, physicality. He can defend the run, he can defend the pass as well. I thought he wasn't that much worse of a prospect than Jahad Campbell coming out of Alabama, and I like Campbell quite a bit. That's no knock on him. I think Schlesinger's really good, and when a lot of people were surprised at how early he was picked with practically a first-rounder, I wasn't that surprised at all. I think he's a fringe first-round talent in this year's class. I expect him to play a lot for us, and as a member of the flowing hair community, I'm excited to have some representation on the roster. But he's going to have to earn his spot because we've got some veterans in the mix, like Jerome Baker and Devin Bush, 2 guys who have been around the league for quite a while. Bush entering his 7th season out of Michigan, Baker entering his 8th year out of Ohio State. These 2 guys have been in the NFL for quite some time, and I expect them to play quite a bit, along with Schlesinger and maybe some other guys. I do kind of like Mohamed Diabate behind Schlesinger at middle linebacker. As we move over to the secondary, we've got one of the better corners in the NFL, the Warden, Denzel Ward. You got barbecue back there and you didn't invite me? Denzel Ward is a 90 overall. He's been one of the best players at the position since he got drafted in the top 5 back in 2018. The problem with Ward is the injury history. He has suffered a lot of concussions and could be one away from probably having to retire. At 28 years old, he's not getting any younger either, and the XP sliders that I'm going to use are not generous to corners who turn 30 years old. Think about all the best cornerbacks in the NFL. How many of them are over the age of 30? Exactly, there's not many. Jalen Ramsey has aged fairly well, and the fact that Denzel Ward has remained this good for this long despite the injuries is impressive. But at 28 years old, how long is he going to stay this good? We've got him under contract for 3 more years, so we're certainly hoping that he can continue to be a solid player into his 30s, and we know he's got the talent to do so. 4-time Pro Bowler, a perennial top 5 to 10 corner at minimum in the NFL over the last 5+ years. Behind him in the cornerback room, we've got Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson, both of whom are expiring at the end of the year. We're going to have to make decisions on them. The decision with Emerson is especially fascinating because he is also not going to play this year. He tore his Achilles last week in practice, so we're going to have to make a choice on his contract before we even see him on the field, which is unfortunate because especially early in his career, he showed some good things. His progression has kind of stagnated a little bit, only being a 75 overall, but he's just 24 years old. He has start development, and given that he just tore his Achilles, he's not going to cost that much to re-sign. I think a 1-year prove-it deal could make sense, certainly for Emerson's perspective, and possibly for us as well if we choose to bring him back. There's also Greg Newsome, the former first-rounder out of Northwestern, who's had an up-and-down career with the Browns, a good player at times. Cleveland's dangled him around in trade rumors. They seem very unsure on whether or not to extend him. Now, luckily, unlike Emerson, we're going to get to see him play this year. We're going to see if he's a guy who we want to keep long-term, maybe trade him away at the deadline if things don't work out. He's a talented player who's shown some good things in the NFL. I think he's really talented, and with his age and development trait, there's no reason to think he can't continue to get better. He's going to cost quite a bit, though. 4 years, $40 million, currently his asking price. The injury to Martin Emerson certainly is not ideal because the depth outside of Ward and Newsome is not great. Nick Needham's probably going to play a little bit, spend some time with the Dolphins. Cameron Mitchell, intriguing physical traits. We're going to see him on the field. Miles Harden's probably going to play. Maybe we end up signing a guy out of free agency. And that'll move us over to safety. Grant Delpit leads the way in his 6th season out of LSU. I remember when he was terrorizing opposing offenses early in his collegiate career with the Tigers. Now, 26 years old, Delpit has turned into a good but not great NFL player. I think he's a guy who can be a starter for us, though, for quite some time. One of the better players on this defense. Good in coverage, good enough in run defense, and I think he's versatile enough to where we can put him in a few different spots where he can still be successful, and I think we're probably going to play him in a few different positions given the depth we have in the safety room. We've got quite a few guys with differing skill sets and guys who can wear different hats. Rayshawn Jenkins, 31 years old, has had some good seasons in the NFL, particularly with Jacksonville. DeMonte KZ, 32 years old. So both of these guys are on the older side, being past 30, but both of these guys have been starters for a while in this league and are certainly going to play quite a bit for us. I like Ronnie Hickman a lot as well. I was really high on him as a prospect and was super surprised that he went undrafted out of Ohio State. We actually had him last year in the Broncos franchise. I think the very first roster move we made was picking up Ronnie Hickman off the Browns practice squad. He was a solid rotation player in the Denver series, but nothing really more than that. He's only 23 years old, though, so maybe he can develop into something. And then Donovan McMillan, the rookie out of Pitt, is there as well. So there is your defense. Better than the offense, but again, we've kind of put the bar on the floor for that. I think the special teams are pretty good, though. Corey Bojorquez is one of the best punters in the NFL. Dustin Hopkins, the veteran kicker. And we finally have launch snappers in the game as well. Thank God. While it's largely doom and gloom with this team, there is one thing that I think we should be really excited about, and that's that we'll be picking twice in the first round of this year's draft. We have our own pick, and then we have the Jacksonville pick from the Travis Hunter deal. This team is not projected to be that great. Trevor Lawrence could take a leap. They could be better than we think. But right now, we're projected to have 2 top 5 picks. I doubt both of them end up in the top 5, but you never know. This gives us 2 really intriguing assets to play around with. Maybe we're able to get a quarterback. Maybe one of the rookies ends up playing well enough to where we can add 2 impact players on either side of the ball to make this team better. That brings us to the preseason, and normally I would move through the preseason pretty quickly so we could get to the regular season. But obviously it's a little bit different with the Browns, given that we have a 5-way quarterback battle to go through. It would be silly to gloss through the preseason with this team, especially wanting to see these 2 rookies, Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. So in the next episode, we're going to play through all 3 preseason games. We've got the Panthers, the Eagles, and then the Rams. The following episode, we'll start the regular season. So I think that is where we're going to wrap things up here. I hope you guys enjoyed and are excited for the second episode of the Cleveland Browns franchise here on Madden 26. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.